Hello, dear students from all over Egypt. Welcome to today's session. With you today, Ms. Wafa Hassoub, and today, inshallah, we will continue chapter 25 of your wonderful platform, Career. Chapter 25 with the name of looping. And we spoke about looping before. Okay, so first lesson of the chapter is repeating math operations. How to repeat arithmetic operations. Okay, so now we have Rick here says typing sound, calculate faster, methods and search. So here we have calculate and faster and how to do it through Google. Okay, well, what this? Do brain training, practice mental math, focus more. Well, that's not quite what I'm looking for. I need something more like, a quick way to get better calculation by tomorrow. So I don't need advices, I need something to calculate. Well, what are you muttering about? Oh, Cody, perfect timing. Can you make me something that helps me calculate faster? Well, you are not mistaking me for someone who can invent anything, are you? Well, just kidding, but seriously, do you know any good ways to get faster at calculations? Something that works right away. We know that calculation is hard for all of us. احنا عارفين طبعا ان فعلا العمليات الحسابية لما نيجي نعملها بتكون إلى حد ما صعبة especially لو احنا عندنا كمية كبيرة. So how to do it faster? Well, why are you in such a hurry to get better at calculations? Well, we're having a calculation battle in class, and as you know, I'm not great at math. I can't look and cool in front of everyone. If it's hard to calculate in your head, well, why not make a program that can calculate instantly? Well, that's clearly cheating. Well, programming is all about getting computers to do difficult or tedious tasks for us. Well, look here. Well, you all right. Even if I lose the calculation battle, I become a programming master. Okay, so look here. Now, then let's think about a calculation program right away to start with. How about a program that calculates 2 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 times for us? Well, okay, so 2 multiplied by 2 5 times means the answer should be 32. So it's 2 multiplied by 2, it's 4. And 4 multiplied by 2, it's 8. 8 multiplied by 2, it's 16. And 16 multiplied by 2, finally you get 32. So this problem is multiplying 2 5 times, right? So we need to make a program that repeats multiplication 5 times. Okay. When you need to repeat multiplication, what kind of program should you use? For loop, if statements, or ampersand? Do you remember? We used the loop, of course, to repeat. So next, great. All the reading paid off when we need to repeat something. We use a for loop. كنا بنستخدم لو فاكرين كده القاعدة أو الكود الخاص بإيه for علشان نعمل بيه اللوبينج أو التكرار. So that's absolutely correct. I see a for loop. We can use the for loop to repeat the multiplication. I remember for loop well, since we just reviewed them, it is something like this. We took it at the first term, do you remember? So we used to use for and let, okay, and write the variable equals 0, and the variable is greater or equal, okay, 5, and we write I or the variable name plus plus instead of writing plus 1. Okay, so let's click run code for this. That's what we took before. And here we have the repetition of for number. Well, how to explain it? Well, we know that the variable, okay, assigned by 0. And we want it, okay, to count. I'm telling here the variable, okay, to count +1 each time, +1 each time, okay? So when it started by 0, so it started by counting 4 and 4 and 4 and stopped before 5. It counted 1, twice, and 3 times, and here is the fourth time, okay? And here it's the console, it says 2 multiplied by 2. So it was output here to the console 5 times. Well, that's not the result I was expecting. Well, do you remember before? We used to have it 4 times, not 5. Well, with this program, the result of 2 multiplied by 2, which is 4, gets output 5 times. قبل كده لو نتذكر إن إحنا كان إيه اللي بيحصل؟ إن هو كان قبل ما يوصل، يعني هو كان بيعدها 4 مرات، أوكي؟ كان بتظهر عندي 4 تكرارات فقط مش 5. But here we have it 2 multiplied by 2. It counted 5 times. Well, within this program, the result of 2 multiplied by 2, which is 4, gets output 5 times. A program to multiply 2 5 times would be written like this. Look here. Before we click run code, look here. So let num equal 1. And here is the for looping. So let, and here is the variable I equals 0, and I is less than 5 and I plus plus. And we have here num equal num multiplied by 2. And we call it to the console. Let's click run code and understand it together. And here we have it 32. So how the output is 32, my program was quite different. Now let's look at how this program works. الديفرنس هنا ما بين البروجرام الخاص بده والبروجرام اللي موجود هنا عندنا، okay, that I'm telling him, okay, to output to the console 2 multiplied by 2. 2 multiplied by 2 is 4, okay? And because we have here the for looping, we here he counted it 5 times. So 4 by 4 and 4 and 4 and wrote it 5 times. Not like the code that Ricky put. So here what we have, it's num multiplied by 2. So he kept multiplying them. So the variable here is 1. And after that, we have it 2. And it multiplied, 1 multiplied by 2, it's 2. And the second time, okay, because it's repeating. يعني في التكرار التاني بقى كان 2. 2 عندي أو 2 multiplied by 2 is 4. في التكرار التالت, okay, 2 multiplied by 4 is 8. And after that, so it's keep repeating until it's 32. So it differs from the one Cody put. Okay, now let's look at how this program works. Let's skip the first line. خلاص احنا عارفين بقى ان احنا كده اسم variable عندنا, or the name of the variable is num, and we assigned 1 to the variable. Let's skip the first line for now and look at the second line. Okay, this is the same for loop that Rick wrote earlier. That repeats 5 times. It's a part that determines how many times to repeat it. So it's gonna be repeated 5 times. The key is the calculation in line 3. Okay, so let's see. It's taking the variable num declared in line 1, multiplied it by 2. So we have here the variable num, and we want it num multiplied by 2. So each time I take what's inside num and multiply it by 2. Okay? And then assigning that calculation result back to num. In line 1, we assigned 1 to variable num. So for the first calculation, num, okay, multiplied by 2. So becomes 1 multiplied by 2. And the result is 2. That result is assigned to the variable num. And for the second calculation, because it's looping, it's repeating, the variable now has 2 inside it. So it's num multiplied by 2. So it's going to be 2 multiplied by 2. It's going to be 4. And voila, etc. Okay, each time. That's exactly right. Let's check if it's really calculating in the sequence. Well, let's click run code here. Look. So here we have num equals num multiplied by 2. Let's click run code. And here what we have, it's 2, 4, 8, 16, and 32 written in front of us. Okay, it outputs 2, 4, 8, 16, and 32. Yes, since variable num was initially assigned 1, num multiplied by 2 or 1 multiplied by 2 first output 2. At this point, the value of the variable num becomes 2, like we have said before. So for the second calculation, num multiplied by 2 or 2 multiplied by 2 outputs 4. At this point, the value of the variable num becomes 4. And so on. When we multiply 4 by 2, the variable num is going to be 8. Okay, so for the third calculation, num is going to be 4 multiplied by 2, output 8, right? Exactly. So the value of the variable num is being overridden with each iteration by overriding the value of the variable num and repeating num multiplied 2, okay, 5 times. It eventually calculates to 32. So look here. We explained it before. So the num here, okay, or the variable num equals 1. So when we want to repeat this calculation, it's num, okay, multiplied by 2. So it's 1 multiplied by 2. It equals 2. And this result is stored here. So num now equals 2. And it repeats again. 2 multiplied by 2. So num here stores 4. And repeat again. It's 4 multiplied by 2. It's going to be 8 and be stored here again. And so on till it's 32. Okay, so let's continue to the next lesson. It's lesson 2, math repetition practice. How to write condition that determine the number of repetitions. Okay, last time we wrote a program to calculate, okay, 2 5 times. Yeah, I understand the theory, but it still doesn't quite, well, click for me. I don't get it correctly. So practice makes perfect. Let's have you write the program yourself this time. Okay. Well, we will create a program that calculates 2, okay, multiply by 2 5 times. Let's enter the same program as follows. Okay, let's take it as copy. And we paste it here. And let's click run code. And voila, we have it output 32. Why 32? Because here the for looping, the num here equals 1. And here we have num equals num multiplied by 2. So المفروض ان احنا الناتج اللي هيطلع عندنا اوكي ان احنا عندنا num multiplied by 2. So num here equals 1 multiplied by 2. فالناتج المفروض هيكون 2. فوالا بقى هيعيد معايا تاني. فهتبقى المفروض هنا الستورد هيبقى مخزن عندي 2 الناتج اللي كان طلع. So the repeating هتبقى 2 multiplied by 2 equals 4. and it's gonna be stored here. هتتحفظ هنا بقى خلاص. Okay, so 4 multiplied by 2 is gonna be 8. And stored here, 8 multiplied by 2 is gonna be 16, and 16 multiplied by 2 is gonna be 32. So console.log num, I want it to give me the final result, which is 32. Well, when I wrote or when I write it out, the program itself is pretty simple. That's because it's just a combination of things you have learned so far. If you think about it calmly, you should be able to write it. As practice, let's try a different calculation. The next problem will be, okay, 4, look here, so we have it 4 multiplied by 4 multiplied by 4, okay, 4 times. It's easier to understand when we write the program in 3 steps. Declare a variable, do the calculation in the for loop, output the calculation result when we finish. Okay, so let's give it a try with me. Okay, so let's create a program as follows. Declare the variable num and assign 1 to it. So to declare a variable, we write let, okay, and the name of the variable, let num equal 1 and semicolon. Okay, so repeat the calculation num equal num, okay, multiplied by 4 times. So we need to create a for looping. How to do it? We write for, okay, and open the parentheses. We write let, okay, and the variable I equals 0, because we have, okay, it starts with num here multiplied by 4, so signed by 0 and semicolon, and I, okay, is less than 4. Okay, and we have a semicolon, and finally we write I plus plus. Okay, and we close the parentheses and we write the curly brackets. Okay, no, wait. Let's do it again. Okay. Oh, yes. So this is the way how to write, okay, the for looping. So we write let I equal 0. And after that, okay, here's we have I is less than 4 and I plus plus. Okay. Repeat the calculation num 4 times, and we need to multiply it, num multiplied by 4. So we write num equal num multiplied by 4. And we need to output to the console, so we will remove this and output to hope. Okay, let's write it again. So now we need to write here num. Oh, yes, it was deleted completely. Okay, it's okay. Let's write num equal num a multiplied by 4. And we have a semicolon, and now we need to delete this, and let's call it to the console. So we write console.log a, open the parentheses, and we write num. Okay, and end it with a semicolon. So Let's check it here. Run code. Well, something is not correct. Let's revise it with me. Okay, so, oh yes, let num equals 1. Wait. Okay, so this is correct now. Let num equal 1. Okay, and console.log num. Okay, let's click run code, and now we have it 256. I'm starting to understand the program now. Well, by the way, we can change the program you just wrote a little bit. So let me show you. Look here. Okay, so here is, okay, the declaration of the variable num, and we assign 1. Here is the for looping. Okay, we do it before. It's the variable I, okay, less than or equal 4. And we have here console.log and num. So look at what inside the parentheses of the for loop. Actually, we can freely change the values and conditions inside these parentheses. Do you remember this? We took it before. So I want him, or I want to tell the computer to repeat it, okay? What is equal 4, يعني less than 4 and equal it. So I wanted to repeat it, okay, 3 times, and equal 4 means 4 times. So we usually write or wrote let I equal 0 and I less than 4 in our programs, right? Looking closely, it's now let I equal 1 and the condition is I is less than or equal 4. But we studied it before. So look here. So the previous program, the variable here starts at 0. When it's less than 4, okay, so 4 here is not included. It's gonna stop, okay, before 4. But here it's gonna continue with 4. يعني احنا هنا كان لما بنيجي كان الريبيتيشن اللي كانت بتحصل ان هو كان بيتوقف قبل ايه، قبل ما توصل 4 او يعني قبل المحاولة الرابعة. لكن هنا عندنا لا، ده انا بقول له ان it's less than or equal 4. يعني كرر لي كده العمليات الحسابية بتاعتي لحد حتى ما تبقى كمان equal 4. So in the left, with our usual program, the loop variable starts at 0 and repeats as long as the condition I equal 4, I less than 4 is met. يعني طول ما هو I less than 4, okay, so it's gonna repeat it every time. That means the first process happens when I is 0. The second is when I is 1, and the fifth with I is 4. So on the right, with the modified program, the loop variable I starts at 1 and repeats as long as the condition is I is less than or equal 4 is met. So this is the difference we spoke. That means the first process happens when I is 1 and the second process when I is 2 and the fourth when I is 4. So these two programs have different I values and conditions, but the number of repetition is the same. Why it's the same? Look here. Because I here starts with 0. So it's gonna count, okay, 0 and 1, 2, 3, and stops before the 4. So it's 4 times. And here, let I, okay, starts with 1. So when you're repeating, it starts with 1, 2, 3, and here we have equal 4. So 4 is counted, 4 is included. So this will be counted or repeated 4 times, and here will be repeated 4 times 2, because here we start, or the variable here is 0, assigned by 0, and here it's assigned by 1. Okay, so these two programs have different I values and conditions, but the number of repetition is the same. That's right, it means we can write the same process in different ways. Since we are here, let's write this program too. Okay, look here. we will create a program that calculates 4 multiplied by 4, okay, 4 times. So enter the same program as below. So we will enter this 4. So let's write it here. Let I equal 1 and semicolon. And after that, okay, we write I, okay, is less than or equal, or semicolon, and I plus plus. Okay, so, and we enclose it, and we have here num, and okay, so everything is perfect, inshallah. So let's click run code. Wait, let, and space. Don't forget the space. So, okay. And here we have it 256. Perfect. So being able to calculate with programming makes me feel smarter. Look here, it calculates, okay, num multiplied by 4, okay. So it started by calculating 1, okay, multiplied by 4. So this is the first time. And 4 here stored. After that, the second time, 4 multiplied by 4, it's gonna be 16. So, and it's stored. And third time is 16 multiplied by 4 and stored here. And the fourth time here because it's equal. So it ended with 256. Perfect. Okay, so let's continue to the next lesson. Okay, the key points for lesson 3. Now we have using loop counter I in arithmetic operations. Here, so far, we have created programs for multiplying the same numbers, like 2 multiplied by 2 5 times and 4 multiplied by 4 4 times. Now, let's try multiplying different. Okay. Let's try multiplying different numbers. For example, let's try multiplying numbers in order from 1 to 5. So we are going to multiply like this. It's 1 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 3 and 4 and 5. Well, the answer should be 120. Well, let's create a program together. So look here, click run code. So this is the code here. Let num equals 1, and this is the 4 here. When here the condition I is less than or equal 5, I want you to keep repeating it till it's 5. Well, let's click run code and see it with me. Have you noticed the third line? It's different. So we have here num multiplied by the variable I itself. So let's click run code and it's 120. Well, there's just one difference from our previous program. We are using the variable I in the calculation inside the for loop. You are right. The program says num equals num multiplied by I. In this program, what's the initial value of the variable? Well, it's 1. Look here. So the first value is 1 here, okay? Okay, so the condition is I is less than or equal 5, which means the repeating process will execute until variable I becomes 5. We already told you that. انه هيفضل كده يكرر في العملية دي okay 5 times لغاية لما يوصل عندنا 5. And we are using this variable I value in the calculation num equals num multiplied by I. So what kind of calculation does this become? Look here. For the first iteration, variable num is 1 and variable I is 1. So it's going to be 1 multiplied by 1. For the second iteration, variable num is 1 and variable 1 is 2. So it's 1 multiplied by 2. Look here. Okay, so I want it, okay, num, okay, multiplied by the I. هو هنا بيعد معانا، يعني بيعد معانا ادي اول محاولة، تاني محاولة، تالت محاولة، وهكذا. Okay, so for the second iteration, variable num is 1 and variable I is 2 اللي احنا لسه قايلين عليها. Okay, so it's 1 multiplied by 2. For the third iteration, variable num is 2 and variable I is 3. And the fourth one is 4 and the fifth one here is 5. So it's gonna be 24 multiplied by 5. This is how, okay, you can do numbers or calculations. So I see it's a bit difficult, but it seems very useful once you get the hang of it. Well, let's actually write this program. So we will create a program that calculates 1 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 3 and 4. نتذكر كده ازاي عملناها. How did we do it? Okay, we have here the variable equals 1 and when we write here num multiplied by I, so I here is counting. احنا قلنا ان هي يعني for loop is for repeating. So it keeps repeating. It's I here equals 1 and equals 2 and equals 3. لان احنا قلنا I plus plus لو نتذكر كده first term معناها ان انت كل مرة زود لي واحد على ال variable I. So the first time is 1 and second time is 2 and 3 and 4. Okay, till it equals 5. So enter the same program as here. So we are going to copy it and paste it here. Let's check the result. Run code and here is 120. Okay, let's create our own. Wow, can you see this number? Do you think we can calculate it? So we want to multiply from 1 to 10. Well, let's write it with me bit by bit. Okay. First, declare the variable num and assign 1 to it. So let num equal 1. Repeat assigning the calculation num, multiplied by 1 by I to variable num 10 times. So let's write the for loop in here repeating. So starting with 4, and open the parentheses, and we write let I equal 1. So this is the first one, and semicolon. After that, we have I, is less than or equal 10. Because here we have it. So assign 1 to variable I and set the condition so that if I is less than or equal, that's why I wrote I is less than or equal 10, and the increment is I. Look here. So it's 10, and let's put a semicolon, and here we have I plus plus. We close the parentheses and we don't forget to write the curly brackets. We click enter. Okay, so we need to multiply it by I. So we write here num equals num multiplied by I. And we put the semicolon. So now it's gonna multiply the variable num, okay, with I here. And after that, we call it to the console. So we write console 8.log and we write num. Okay, and end with a semicolon. So let's click run code with me. Well, something is not correct. Let's revise it with me. Well, okay, so let num equal 1. And let's click run code. And here we have our great number that we have here. Okay. Why? Because it counted. Let's check it with me. So num here is equal 1. And I'm telling him, okay, to multiply num by the variable I. So for the first time, I equals 1. So it's 1 multiplied by 1. The second time here, second time for loop, it's 2. So 1 multiplied by 2. And the third time is 3. So here we have here 2. So 2 multiplied by 3, it's going to be 6. Multiplied by 4, it's going to be 24. Multiplied by 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 till it reaches this number. Hope you understood it, inshallah. So, well, for small calculations, mental math might be faster, but for large calculations, computers really show their strength. Okay, so let's go to the review. I hope you, inshallah, understood everything about the looping. It's pretty simple lesson. And let's start here to know the result. So please select the execution result of the following program from the choices. So let num equal 1. For let I equal 0 and I is less than 3. And of course, we have here, it's repeated by 1 or plus plus. So num here equals num multiplied by 2. Okay. And console.log. So it's less than 3. Less than 3. Okay, let's count it with me. Okay, the first time is 1. Here we have 1. So 1 multiplied by 2, it's 2. Second time, here we have 2. خلاص هنا اتحفظت بقى الاثنين اللي طلعت اتحفظت هنا عندنا في variable num. So it's 2. في المرة الثانية بقى 2 multiplied by 2 is 4. في third time, okay, 4 multiplied by 2, so it's gonna equal 8. Okay, it's gonna equal 8. Okay, let's click answer and it's correct. Okay, so here we're gonna let's create a program as follows. Declare a variable num and assign 1 to it. Okay, so let num equal 1. Repeat the calculation num equals num multiplied by 7 5 times. So assign 0 to variable I. يبقى let's create كده for loop and open the parentheses and we write let I equal 0. So because it says assign 0 to it, and put a semicolon and and set the condition so that if I is less than 5, so I here have is less than 5 and a semicolon, then 5 and the increment is I, so it's I plus plus. Okay, and we put the curly brackets. And don't forget here we have num equals num multiplied by 7. So we write here num equals num multiplied by 7 and semicolon. And we need to call it to the console, so we write console.log. And open the parentheses, and we write num in between and end it with a semicolon. Okay, let's click run code. And here we have the number output. Okay, let's have the answer, and it's correct. Okay, next. Okay, from the choices, select the most appropriate representation of how the value of variable I changes in the following program. So let num equals 1 and 4. Look here, it's num multiplied by 2. So بما ان هو عندي starts with 1, so it's gonna start with 1 until here. Look here, I is less than or equal 7. So يبقى كده هو هيعد معايا من أول الواحد لحد مين؟ لحد 7. Starting from 1 till 7. Okay, so this is the correct one. And click answer, and it's correct. Okay, moving to question number 4, we will create a program that calculates, okay, this adding now. Okay, declare variable num and assign 0 to it. So let's write num. Okay, let num equal 0 and repeat assign the calculation num plus I to variable num 6 times. However, assign 0 to the variable I. So let's write كده 4 and let I be equal 0 and a semicolon. Okay, if it's less than 6, so I here is less than 6 and I plus plus. Okay, we put the curly brackets and click enter and repeat the assignment. It's num, okay, plus I. So we need to write here the variable name num equals num plus I now. And we put the semicolon. And finally, we need to call it to the console. So we write console.log, open the parentheses, and we write num in between and end it with a semicolon. So look here, we click run code, and it's gonna be 15. Why 15? Because here num for the first time is 0. And I want to add it to the variable I. So I for the first time is 1. So the first time here is 1. And we have here num equals second time, but it's 1 plus 2. So it's 3 plus 3. It's going to be 6 plus 3. It's going to be, 3 plus 3 is going to be 6 and plus 4. So it's going to be 10 and so on till it reaches 15. بس نخلي بالنا ان هي هنا less than 6. Okay. فبالتالي هيقف عندي قبل ما يوصل ل6. يعني هي repeat it, okay, 5 times starting from the 0, and here it's equal 1, 2, and 3, and 4, and 5. Okay, click answer, and it's correct. And let's click next. This is the 5th question. We will create a program that calculates, okay, 5040, okay, divided by 1, divided by 2, divided by 3, and 4, and 5. Okay, declare variable num and assign 5040 to it. So القيمة هنا بقى مختلفة. So we assign a different value to the variable num. So let num equal 5040. Okay. Repeat assign the calculation num is divided by I to variable num 5 times. However, for the loop condition, assign 1 to the variable I. Here we assign 1 to it. So for, open the parentheses, let I equal 1. Well, and set the condition so that if I is less than or equal, so I here is less than or equal to 5. Okay, and we put the semicolon and I plus, put our beautiful curly brackets, and we, okay, need to assign the variable, okay, num divided by I. So we need to write num, okay, equals num divided by I. Spaces, so it looks good. And put a semicolon, and finally we call it to the console. So it's console.log, and we put the parentheses and we write num and ending it with a semicolon. So let's revise it here. Let num equal, okay, 50, 40, and let I here equals 1, and I is less than or equal 5, and I plus plus, and we have here num equals num divided by I. Okay, let's click run code and see what's gonna be the output. So it's 42. Why 42? Then edit num here is equal this. So I'm gonna divide it here by 1 for the first time, 2 second time, and 3 and 4 and 5 because it's equal. So the ending is gonna be 42. Okay, let's click answer, and voila, it's correct. And let's go to the result, and it's perfect. Well, I hope you, inshallah, enjoyed our lesson for today. Till I see you again, from me, all best wishes and delicious iftar for all of you. Thank you and goodbye.